Happy Friday, Hokie Nation. However you want to look at it, though, because Virginia Tech falls last night 22-21 on the road at NC State. Nick, a heartbreaking football game for Virginia Tech a night ago in Raleigh. Yep. One of the weirdest football games I think I've ever seen. You go halftime, it was almost 0-0. Finally, NC State finds a way to put a field goal on the board. So it's 3-0 at halftime. Then, boom, out of the gate in the second half, Virginia Tech goes their first drive all the way down. And like 6 plays, they go 74 yards for a touchdown. I was like, where has this been all season long? And then out of nowhere, Virginia Tech is up 14-3, and then they're up 21-3. And then the cookies started to crumble, and NC State comes all the way back, and Hokies give up 19 unanswered to lose the ball game. So just what a bizarre football game in Raleigh last night. Kind of what is, as we digest this, your initial reaction here?
I don't even know, like that first half may have, I was at the Wake Forest Virginia Tech 0-0 football game.
Really?
And that game was at least exciting because both teams were moving the football. There was missed field goals at the end of the game. Like there was some excitement. In that first half, there was zero excitement in that game at all until the final, 15 seconds when MJ, their fresh quarterback, fumbles the ball, picks it up, and then runs it to the 3, but then it gets called back. So that was the only excitement there. In the second quarter, in the first half. I think there was back-to-back drives where Virginia Tech got stuffed on 3rd and 1, and then Tech punted the ball, and then they went for it on 3rd and 1. They got stuffed. They picked up the 4th and 1, but it was just a crap show. And of course the penalties. Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
And I was talking about this with Jake Lyman actually this morning, and yes, Virginia Tech committed 10 false starts. That's atrocious, not good, no excuses at all.
There was 3 on a single drive.
Yes.
What was with the special teams too?
So it's atrocious, but not Wake Forest, NC State also had 5.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that there was 15 false starts in a football game? Who cares who they're on?
Right.
That's just an abnormal amount of false starts. So I thought the refs called a fantastic game. There were some calls where I was like, that was a great piece of officiating. But I thought, because I feel like you could call false start on almost any play. Someone's going to be flinching or twitching their eyes or something.
Right.
So I just thought 15, man, that seems weird. And in the second half, I paid attention to NC State's center the entire second half when they had the ball, and he would flinch every time he'd get down. He'd flinch backwards a little bit and then snap it. And so I'm like, how is that not a false start? But heaven forbid, Saz Janzi, winks at the defensive lineman or whatever. And so, yes, Virginia Tech, penalties atrocious, but they only had 2 others besides false start and offsides. So if you take away the 11 other penalties, which is a lot, it's not so bad. There wasn't a lot of gameplay penalties in a whole, but like you said, just one of the weirdest games and one of the weirdest box scores you will ever see in your life.
The thing that was so weird to me too is like, how do so many of the false starts come on special teams? Like it felt like every time the punting unit came out, poor Peter Moore has to walk 5 yards back before he punts the football. I'm like, what the heck? Like I don't understand what the issue was there, which we haven't really seen the special teams struggle with that all year. So I don't know what the difference was.
The special teams have struggled, but like you said, not really in penalties wise. That was weird. I thought Peter Moore, another rough game. I thought, I'll dive into some plays that I thought could have changed the game, but there was just a lot of interesting things that really occurred on special teams that I was just scratching my head at. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have been surprised if, someone picked off the football and then they drop the ball before they cross the end zone, and then Virginia Tech scoops up and runs it back, kind of like one of those crazy Oregon plays that happened against Utah years ago. So, it was just I felt like something weird, like super weird was going to happen. Nothing super weird happened, but the game is around. Was just like, what? I was looking at my family and I have friends during the game, like, what? This is the worst football game I have ever watched in the first half. And the second half, like you said, was insanely exciting.
Yeah, it was and it was weird too. I've said all year, like after the first couple games, the only way Tech wins the rest of the year is they get a defensive and a special teams touchdown, and they didn't. And if they got one, probably would have been game last night. Grant Wells, though, I mean, 11 for 22, 243 yards through the air and a touchdown. That's the best we've seen him play quarterback-wise all year. He also had 17 yards on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns. Showed his legs, his athleticism, his escapability. Probably the best game we've seen out of Grant Wells to date.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think there's really any debate about that.
Yeah, Wofford, whatever.
Yeah,
it's Wofford.
Yeah.
It is what
NC
it is.
State has a good defense. That's the difference.
Yeah, and he was torching him. By the way, Caleb Smith, holy crap.
Yeah.
He came out of nowhere with some speed, but 11 of 22 passing, like you said. I mean, almost all of those yards came off of Caleb Smith. Came off Caleb Smith or in the second quarter.
Yeah.
But he looked really sharp, and what's going to be overlooked with those obviously 2 deep balls that he threw, which were gorgeous, his running.
Yeah.
That third touchdown where he kept his feet in bounds, I don't know how he tight-roped it in, but he somehow did. It was very clear that he never touched out of bounds, and he scored. So he really showed his athleticism last night, and I thought he looked easily the best that he had played all season. A lot of people on Twitter were, especially in the first half, giving him a lot of criticism.
Yeah.
Even in the second half, or even after the game, giving him a little criticism. But I thought, first off, he was not the person to blame for the game. He played his heart out, and he was taking hits left and right, bullying through guys, juking out guys left and right. I thought that was his most complete game, running the ball and throwing the ball. And like you said, against the best defense that they're going to play all season.
Malachi Thomas, to start the game, the beginning of the second half, I should say, was a key contributor. Had a really nice diving catch down the right sideline. That was really impressive display of athleticism, especially for a tailback out of the backfield to go make a catch like that. That was really impressive. Then he goes out and leaves the field on a cart. Probably not very good news. Your heart just goes out to the guy who has just gotten on the field a couple weeks ago in Pittsburgh for the first time all year, just battling through injuries, and now he's probably going to be out for a minute again here. So just unfortunate to see Malachi go down like that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any sense in bringing him back. He's only played in 3 games, I want to say.
You could redshirt him.
He could redshirt even if he plays in the UVA game. So I really don't think, even if he is healthy enough to play at the end of the season, I don't think there's really a point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I hate that because he was having a great game out of the backfield. By the way, his blocking. Holy cow. And Grant Wells was having some tremendous time in the pocket last night.
Yes.
And Malachi was in the thick of it every time, dropping blitzers left and right. So that was a big loss right there. And so that we'll get later into what I think are the top 4 or 5 plays that changed the game. That was, I would say, probably the second biggest play that changed the game because Virginia Tech was rolling on offense, and as soon as he went down, everything just kind of unraveled in those last 2 drives without him. It was not good to say the least.
Yeah.
So that was probably the worst takeaway out of the game. Yes, Virginia Tech lost the game, still to a ranked team on the road, whatever. But that was the worst thing that came out of that game.
Well, one thing that you can't go without talking about, Jack Chambers gets pulled, only goes 6 for 13, 31 yards. Obviously struggled to get that offense going. And then they bring in MJ Morris, true freshman quarterback. He goes 20 for 29, 265 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's the quarterback of their future in that program's eyes as far as everything that you've heard and read and everything like that. They wanted to get him those reps, but they wanted to wait for a time where they felt he was ready and they could put him in a position to succeed. They felt like last night was that opportunity. And, man, sometimes you just got to tip your cap. The kid delivered. I mean, 19 unanswered to put up a stat line like that and come back and win a ball game in front of your home crowd on primetime. That's an impressive performance, no doubt about it.
Yeah, he was slinging that football around. There was 2 passes that I thought were one was dumb, the other one was just a lob to the end zone. But that one they threw into triple coverage.
Yeah,
where Armani Chapman, that's my 3rd biggest play that changed the game when he dropped the pick.
You gotta catch those.
That was really the only bad decision I would say that kid made all night. There was plenty of plays where he could have dumped it off to his running back and they could have that running back could have scampered for 10, 15 yards, or he could have ran. He's got wheels too, but he elected to throw more than he ran. So he missed some opportunities, but he didn't make bad decisions. And besides that one that Chapman just could not capitalize, and that's kind of the biggest storyline of this defense this season is they just haven't been able to make the big play.
Yeah.
They can make good plays. They can make some great tackles. They can make some great hits, some great pass breakups, but they can't make that good game-changing play.
That's the thing about this defense all season long. Like you mentioned, the big play. They can kind of bend, not break. They've had some. I mean, they've had some tough defensive games. UNC scored a lot on them. Pittsburgh obviously torched them. Yeah. But they've had some big defensive games, some big defensive stands, some key moments defensively. But they have not forced turnovers.
Yeah.
You have one interception. Armani Chapman grabbed it against Boston College. Fumbles have been hard to come by. They've put the football on the ground but haven't fallen on top of it. So they haven't really forced those turnovers to get the football back to the offense with good field position and really change the game on the defensive side of the ball. One guy I want to talk about, actually two guys I want to talk about. First off, Alan Tisdale. I mean, his presence on this defense just changes the entire defense completely. He was the leading tackler on the day, had a sack, had a tackle for loss. I mean, Alan Tisdale balled out last night.
Yeah, they put him on a QB spy for a few plays as well when MJ was kind of running loose. And I think there was one hit that Tizzy got on him and just laid the wood on him. And MJ didn't run the rest of the game after that. He was afraid. So having Tisdale back is huge. Tisdale's long, he's lengthy, he's quick, and he can hit. He doesn't look like he can be a big hitter. He's not, super jacked or whatever. Dax definitely has a better physique, I think, and looks stronger and bigger. But Tizzy can lay the wood, and he made MJ not want to run. That pass that he threw to Chapman in the end zone in the triple, when they showed it back from kind of the aerial view, there was nobody in front of him. He could have ran for the first down, probably down to the 10 or 5 yard line.
Yeah.
But instead he threw it, and that was after Tisdale just crunched him earlier that drive. So Tisdale's a force to be reckoned with, and you can tell that this defense really, really missed him in the first half of the season.
The other guy I wanted to talk about, Mansour Delane, true freshman coming out. It's interesting. There were some plays where I was like, wow, he is the guy. And then there was a couple plays where he kind of got cooked. The matchup, to me, that was incredibly interesting throughout the entire game was him and Terrell Timmons Jr., who's also a true freshman out of Greensboro, North Carolina. Those two were really battling. A couple of deep balls that NC State ended up throwing up to Timmons, and pretty much said freshman on freshman, who's going to make the play. Timmons made a couple of plays. That was kind of the only time that I felt like Delane looked weak, almost like he was running too fast and then couldn't come back to the ball and make a defensive play on it. But it's like he's still incredibly talented, and he's a guy Virginia Tech has to keep in Blacksburg.
He's a true freshman still, so he's going to make some mistakes.
Yeah,
he's not gonna have a perfect Kyle Fuller or Kendall Fuller or D'Angelo Hall type game,
right?
Because he's still a true freshman. But here's the stat line. He had 5 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and a forced fumble in his first career start. People forget that forced fumble is on the second or third drive, I thought, and stripped it cleanly. It just unfortunately bounced out of bounds.
Right.
But that was a sweet play. But we'll give him a little flack here. The biggest game-changing play, in my opinion, was when he dropped the pick that went right into his hands. Unbelievable.
That would have been a highlight reel play.
Oh, yeah, it would have. And so it was an unbelievable play to turn it around. He had his eyes. And so that is a really hard play to make, but it hit him in both of his hands, man. Right in the
end zone you're talking, right?
Yeah. Right in both the hands. So he stopped the touchdown. That was big. But NC State got the field goal, and that proved to be really the difference maker.
Yeah.
So you go to halftime 0-0. Who knows what happens if you go up 7-0, 14-0, 21-0 instead of 21-3? Because in the whole back of the mind of NC State is, we still have 3 points. If we score 3 touchdowns, boom, 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 we have the lead. So that's I thought that was the biggest play of the game, in my opinion. That if that happened, changed, Virginia Tech may have that probably had the biggest impact. I don't know. There was a lot of things, but that was a big play. But nonetheless, Mansour Delane in his first start, pretty darn good stat line.
So here's my question for you, Nick. I felt like sometimes with these big comebacks, there's a play to point to. Like, you're talking Atlanta Falcons, Patriots in the Super Bowl probably started with the strip sack by Hightower in that ball game, right, on Matt Ryan. If you're talking, I mean, just coming ahead last week, Syracuse Clemson, it's in the third quarter, and as soon as they draw that late hit out of bounds on 3rd and 25, it gave Clemson a free first down, and they moved into enemy territory off that instead of Syracuse getting the ball back. I said Syracuse just lost the game, and it's the third quarter. You just felt the momentum shift. You knew they were going to go score after that. I didn't feel a specific play last night that made me feel like Virginia Tech just lost the game until the end when they lost the game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of interesting because usually in these comebacks, there's that shift in momentum. And it was just kind of like all of a sudden Tech fizzled out and the clock, like Virginia Tech punted the ball away with 6 minutes left and NC State was just able to kill that clock.
Yeah.
And Virginia Tech never touched the ball again.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody thought Virginia Tech wasn't going to touch the ball again.
Yeah.
You know?
I thought, so MJ Morris, by the way, shout out their quarterback, great game, like you said earlier. He led that touchdown drive after Tech went up 21-3. Beautiful ball, toasted DJ Harvey on that deep route. Just a perfect pass. So I wouldn't even say that was the play. In my opinion, the kickoff after that, Chance Black drops it.
Okay.
Scoops it up.
Yeah.
Runs it to the 13-yard line maybe at the most or whatever. It was not good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, NC State's feasting off that. They're feeling good. 3 and out, boom, boom, boom. Whatever. It's fine. They score another touchdown. Oh, crap. Things get a little hairy. Then they kick it off again. And this is the one that I think really kind of, when this happened, I was like, oh, here he goes. So Chance Black drops it, scoops it up, gets hit, fumbles into the arms of...
Thank God Holston was there.
Unbelievable. And then Holston gets called also for the illegal block below the waist. So that backs up Virginia Tech within their own 10. Then you're really in trouble. You can't do anything offensively back there. That's when I really was like, that's it. That's the changing right there. So I think Chance Black's 2 fumbles on the kickoffs or the 2 muffed kicks really changed complexion. Because if Chance Black returns that even just to the 20-yard line instead of just to the 13 and the 5, I think, obviously the offense is going to have more cushion and they're going to be able to do more things than just run straight up the middle 2 plays and then try to throw a ball. So I don't. It sucks, but NC State's a good team.
Yeah,
they're ranked.
No doubt
even
about it.
Without their starting quarterback, they're ranked for a reason.
I think they found their quarterback of the future.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. They have a 4-star quarterback who's pretty darn good. So
Dan Mullen said he recruited him at Florida.
Yeah, people think people are upset about it, but at the end of the day, NC State's a good team on a Thursday night at home. Right, like it's. The fact that Virginia Tech only lost by 1, I think that's I wouldn't say it's a win for Virginia Tech, but that's a moral victory that you can, like, yes, you blew a big lead, but I mean, still progress from when you lost 41-10 at UNC. So I think there's a lot of great takeaways out of the third quarter from Virginia Tech, but at the end of the day, man, they're 13.5-point favorites for a reason.
Last question for you before we wrap things up here. Virginia Tech takes the 21-3 lead with 4:02 left on the clock in the third quarter. They never scored again. NC State scores 19 unanswered after Virginia Tech had an 18-point lead. So you go 19 minutes without a score. NC State claws their way all the way back. Who do you point that finger at? Is that a defensive problem or is that an offensive problem? A lot of people were having some trouble on social media with Tyler Bowen and the offensive play calling and things like that. Where does the finger get pointed for letting a team come back down 18 points?
I don't know. It's tough because, like I said, the two drives after the touchdown drive, they got the ball at their, within the 15-yard line. Well, within the 15 and within the 10. So your playbook is really limited. You're not going to want to drop back and just, try to. You don't want to pick 6 or whatever. So I get the play calling in those 2 drives. I don't know. NC State's going to score points. I mean, they were going to find points. Virginia Tech was not going to hold them to 3 points the whole game. I don't know. I don't really think there is a finger to wag at.
Right.
It's just it was kind of a group effort as to the collapse, really. The DBs had a fantastic first half, really struggled in the late to third quarter and fourth quarter. Tackling got a little weaker. You hit the running back on third down at the line of scrimmage and behind the line of scrimmage on back-to-back third downs. Can't wrap him up. He gets both first downs to ice the game. Of course, offense only had 1 first down, -4 yards in the fourth quarter, but they only touched the ball 2 times. So, I mean,
True.
I don't know.
Bad, tough field position where you can't necessarily pass. Like, you're kind of forced to run the ball.
Exactly. So, and entering the game, Virginia Tech was ranked number 3 in the country for defensive line yards giving up on a run. I think it's like 1.7 yards per carry the defensive line gives up. I don't know how I guess it's between the tackles that they count that.
Right.
And NC State was number 2 in the country at like 1.63 or something like that. So, you know, like it's just kind of an expected outcome that both teams were going to run up the middle and not get a lot of yards. So when you're backed up way, way back in your own territory like that, you're not going to expect, you know, a big burst of 10, 15 yards, especially when you lose Malachi Thomas. I think the offense would have flowed much better if you had Malachi Thomas or Keyshawn King. People forget Keyshawn King didn't play.
Yeah, that's very true.
If you have one of those 2 guys, I think there's a completely different fourth quarter. I think you get a little more first downs. The false starts were bad. I will say that. They were, you know, an atrocity. But I also do want to point out that Bud Foster's defense was really good at drawing people false starts. People like to point at the noise. He did it on the road too.
Right.
It's because all those D-line shifts. And, well, who's that D-line coach with Bud Foster? Charlie Wiles.
Yeah.
Who's NC State's defense line coach now? Charlie Wiles. And if you saw every single play, they were either sprinting up to the line, shifting pre-snap.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
they were showing blitz a lot and then dropping out of it.
That's probably one of the best defensive line coaches in the country, if not the best. So it's, I don't know. Momentum's a crazy thing.
It is.
It is I was at Notre Dame in 2016 when Virginia Tech was down 17, won that game. And then I was also at the Belk Bowl for Arkansas. Virginia Tech's down 24-0 and comes back and wins, 35-24?
Yeah.
It's just, you see it more in basketball than you do in football, but it's harder to stop in football, I think. And NC State just got the momentum at the end. And it's just such a funny thing with sports. So I think there is a little bit to blame with the coaching staff. Not, I wouldn't say as much as like the ODU game, but at the end of the day, NC State's a good football team all around. And yes, they didn't have their starting quarterback, but that dude is going to be a stud in the ACC in the next few years. So it is what it is. Virginia Tech, if you told a Tech fan, hey, you're going to have a lead in the fourth quarter, you're going to lose by 1 point, people would be like, oh, dang, like kept it close. But against, I don't know. I think people were really frustrated that you lose 5 straight. That is, it sucks.
Right.
Losing sucks. But it's a good team.
Yeah.
Again, NC State's not a bad team. You don't expect to beat a good team. So when you're not good. So I don't know.
No doubt about it. All right, well, I think that wraps things up for us here today on TSL Today. Again, Virginia Tech falls in Raleigh, final score 22-21. But I think one thing can be said. It was a good game. It was a fun game to watch. It was a weird game, especially the second half, I should say, was fun. Very entertaining to watch. Good old ACC primetime football. So tough. Hokies coming a loss, but there were some positive takeaways. And we appreciate everyone tuning in today. Again, we'll come back at you on Monday. It's every Monday, Wednesday, Friday right here from the Corporate Research Center in Blacksburg. This was episode 6, I think, of TSL Today. Have a good weekend, everybody.